This is DVP reporting for the 22nd time in 1985. Today is Sunday, July the 21st. This afternoon at Riverfront Stadium, it'll be the Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies closing out season's play between one another. This will wrap up a 4-game Riverfront series. It'll also close out an 11-game homestand for the Cincinnati Reds, their longest homestand of the year. And it will turn out not to be a very successful stand. It'll be below 500 because the Reds have lost 6 of the first 10 games. And the Phillies have taken care of the Reds 2 times in the first 3 games in this series. My last game scored was the first game of this series just 3 days ago on Thursday the 18th, and the Reds lost that one as the Phillies snapped a 5-game losing streak, a 6-3 final score. So the Phillies have won 2 out of the last 3, coming on the heels of losing 5 consecutive ball games just prior to Major League Baseball's 3-day All-Star break, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with the annual All-Star game, the 56th renewal, being held at the Metrodome, of course, on Tuesday, and the National League winning that ball game 6-1, their second consecutive win over the American circuit. And the Reds have not played all that great since the break, losing 2 of the 3 games, so we need a win to split the series. I've got 2 games to recap on my Reds recap program today. July 19th to 20th, a win and a loss. The Reds winning in sudden death 3-2 on Friday night, and losing one big last night, a big offensive display by the Phillies, 10 runs, 13 hits, and the Reds had 6 runs in that one, so we lost it by 4. The Reds' record now stands at just a couple of games above 500. At 45-43, we lost a game yesterday. We're now 6 games back, and that's the farthest the Reds have been behind since losing 1-5-2 to these Phillies at Veterans Stadium back on the 5th of this month. On Friday, July the 19th, at a 7:35 start, the Reds scored the winning run with 1 out in the bottom half of the 9th inning on a game-winning bloop doubled on the right field side by Gary Reedus, who entered the game earlier as a pinch hitter for Tom Hume and walked and stayed in the game to play left field. And well, he didn't exactly muscle the ball into the outfield. He just kind of looped one beyond first base, and it bounced into the Reds' bullpen. Nobody could get to it, and Ron Oster, who led off the inning with a bunt single and was moved up on a successful sacrifice by catcher Dan Bellardello. Oster scored from second base. He long-legged it around third and came in easily on the game-winning bloop double by Gary Reedus. But it looks like a line drive, I guess, as they say, in the box scores, and it turns out good for Reedus, who's been kind of struggling of late. But in these last couple of games, he's been on a boatload of times, as Marty Brenneman might say. A couple of hits, several bases on balls in there, and he's stolen a couple of bases. He now has 33 steals with a 2-for-2 last night in the loss to Philadelphia. That made a 3-2 Cincinnati win, and that evened up the series at a game apiece. And the recipient of that game-winning base hit, as far as the Reds pitcher is concerned, it is Johnny Franco. And boy, he has been doing a sensational job combining with Ted Power to form, well, at the current time, the most effective bullpen duo in Major League Baseball. Combining the last month, I don't think either one of them have given up so much as a single run to the opposition. Franco gets his 7th win as he went the 8th of the 9th, allowed just 1 hit and struck out 2. He's 7-1, his 7th straight win, I might add. He was at one point 0-1 after 1 game, so he has not lost since mid-April when he gave up a game-winning homer to Darryl Strawberry of the Mets at Shea Stadium. The losing pitcher is Kent Tekulve, the reliever, went 1/3 of an inning, allowed 2 hits and a run, and he gave up that game-winning hit with 1 out in the 9th to Gary Reedus. So the Reds have won several sudden death ball games on the current homestand. I think all but one of their wins so far have been sudden death, either bottom of the 10th, bottom of the 11th, or bottom of the 9th wins. Tekulve 4-5 with that loss, and his 2nd straight loss against Cincinnati. And yes, it is indeed. He lost a 10-inning 3-2 final, that same final score back on July 7 at Veterans Stadium. And incidentally, Franco won that game. That's rather interesting, I guess. Franco 5-1 at that time. Power got a save, and Tekulve 4-4, giving up a game-winning homer with 1 out on the top of the 10th to Cesar Cedeno. And so Tekulve is charged with his 2nd loss in a row against Cincinnati. He followed Don Carmen, who went 2 innings, allowed 2 hits, no runs. And he gave up the first ever National League hit to one Buddy Bell, who was obtained that very day. It was announced at a 4 p.m. news conference on July 19th that the Reds had officially acquired Mr. Bell, and I talked about that at length in my last broadcast on Thursday, and I had a profile on Bell, 33-year-old native of Cincinnati who was born in Pittsburgh but still resides in the Queen City. He came up with a base hit, his final time up, I think it was, in that game. He was 1 out of 4 in the contest, and reached on a fielder's choice one time, grounded out, popped up, and had a base hit into left field off of lefty Don Carmen in the 8th inning of that 3-2 Reds win on Friday. That's his first National League hit, and of course his first as a Red. He was obtained officially the morning of July 19 for outfielder Dwayne Walker and a player to be named later. And speculation is that it's either going to be Freddie Tolliver or Jeff Russell, but that's not decided as yet. And Walker, by the way, got into the lineup July 19 for the Rangers as the designated hitter batting 5th. He was taken down later in the game for Billy Stein, and Walker was 0 for 3, fly out, a strikeout, and something else in that game in his AL debut with the Texas Rangers on Friday. So Buddy broke in to a National League career on Friday, and we hope that he's going to be around for a long time at the Reds' hot corner. He's not exactly a spring chicken at the age of 33. He's been around some 14 years, but you look what happened with Dave Parker. Parker wasn't exactly young when he came to the Reds last season, and he's put together 2 of his finer years of his 13 or 14-year career that he's had with the Pirates and the Reds. So he's had 2 fine years with Cincinnati, and hopefully Bell coming home, just like Parker, who resides in Cincinnati, it'll provide the same incentive for Bell to go on and perform admirably in a Reds uniform. The totals on Friday had the Reds 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors, and they left 8. The Phillies had 2, 6, 2, and left 9. Franco over Tekulve, Kevin Gross, and Tom Browning were the respective starters for the Phils and the Reds. We also used Tommy Hume in that game. Browning 7-7 with back-to-back losses, back-to-back no decisions now. And he's 0-2 with 2 no decisions in his last 4 starts, but has pitched some pretty good baseball. On Friday, 6 2/3, 4 walks, 2 Ks, 2 runs, 5 hits. Not too bad. And he kept us in the game. And the Reds, Pete Rose, given assist to player manager Pete Rose in that game. He was 0 for 2. Hasn't had a hit in a long time, in about a week plus. But still, he's been contributing, even though he's been in a dry spell. He's walked a bunch of times, and he delivered 2 sacrifice flies, 1 in the 1st inning and 1 in the 5th. And that got the Reds out in front 2-0. The Phillies tied it with 2 in the top half of the 7th inning, and the Reds win it on the game winner by Reedus, scoring Oster with that bloop double on the right side, 3-2, in the bottom half of the 9th inning. 2 hours, 18 minutes for that game. A crowd of 28,929 paid their way into the stadium. Total in the stadium, good crowd, 35,279. That's one of the biggest crowds at the ballpark this year. They had about 7,000 straight-A students in there for free. In last night's ball game, the Phillies went out in front 2-1 in the series in Game 11 of the 12-game season series. And the Phillies will need to win today to gain a split with the Reds in this season's series. Right now, the advantage is Cincinnati 6-5. Philadelphia 10, Cincinnati 6 on Saturday night, July the 20th. 10 runs, 13 hits, no errors, and 7 men left aboard for Philadelphia. Rose's Reds had 6 runs, 10 hits with 1 error and left 9. And normally that would be enough to win. What with the good pitching we've been getting of late, especially out of Ronnie Robinson. 6 runs should be enough to garner the win with Robinson's 5-0 record and a very good 243 earned run average up there on the board. But it was not enough as Robbie had his first bad outing of the season. His 3rd start in a row. He had not walked a batter and had gone 2-0 in the previous 2 starts, but he walked 4 and 3 in the early innings in that game last night, allowed 7 hits and as many runs in 5 2/3, and struck out 5 batters, and he takes his first loss of the year. He's 5-1 this season. He's 6-3 lifetime. That's his 3rd lifetime loss. As Shane Raleigh pitched a good ball game for his Philadelphia ball club in the hot, steamy conditions. He came out after 7 innings. He allowed 6 hits, 3 runs. He walked 4, struck out 2. Then Larry Anderson was roughed up for 3 hits and 3 runs and 2/3 in the 8th inning as each team got 3 in the 8th. And then Don Carmen faced 1 batter, walked him. Kent Tekulve was brought out of the bullpen. He went 1 1/3, allowed a hit and struck out a batter as he registers his 10th save of the year and his 2nd of the series. He got 1 in the 6-3 win on Thursday. So Raleigh 7-6 over Robinson, 5-1. Tekulve a save, 2 hours 46 minutes for that ball game. And there was 1 home run, and that was hit by Juan Samuel, his 9th of the season. He had quite a day. 3 out of 4. He scored 1 and knocked in 5 of the 10 runs. A game-winning RBI for Ozzie Virgil, his 4th of the season. By the way, Reedus' game winner the day before, his 4th of the year, tying Pete Rose for 2nd on the team, next to Parker's 10. Tony Perez, a good day for the Cincinnati Ball Club. 3 hits, all doubles to double his count from game time. Came in with 3. He's got 6 now. He knocked in 3 in that one to give him 21. Pushes his average up from 306 to 322. He was slipping actually down below 300 for 1 at-bat on Thursday night when he started in that game against Jerry Kuzman. He was batting .298, but he's rocketed that up there with 4 hits since then in his last 6 trips. And 3 big doubles, slugging average now up above .520. So he got back on the beam, helping his ball club after struggling for a while. Hadn't had an RBI in a while either, but he gets it up to 21 RBIs, and that is some 6 more than he knocked in all of last year when he returned to the Reds for the first time since 1976. He continues to do it. He passed up a ball player, Goose Goslin it was, on the all-time RBI list. Perez now 15th or 16th on that list with 1,600-plus career runs batted in. Congratulations, Tony. It was Parker, Bell, and Perez in the meat of that order last night. Bell was 0 for 3, but scored twice. He walked twice, struck out 2 times in that game. He did come in a couple of times. It wasn't enough to get the Reds the win. A crowd of 33,624 saw it as the Reds continue to draw very well at Riverfront, up about 100,000 from last year. The Reds are approaching now the million mark in home paid attendance, a mark that they have surpassed each of the last 13 or 14 years at Riverfront Stadium. This, of course, is the 15th year that the stadium has been in existence, beginning with the 1970 season midway through that year. Robinson, Hume, Buchanan, Stuper, and Power went out for the Reds, and Stuper was roughed up again for the second straight game. He gives up multiple runs. He allowed 4 runs in 1 inning in his last game about a week ago, and this time gives up 3 runs, 4 hits in just 1 inning. Power comes on for 1 good inning to again reduce his ERA to 1.52. He's been sensational out of that pen. Raleigh, Anderson, Carmen, and Tekulve for the Philadelphia Phillies. The Reds had a chance to tie that thing up. It looked like it was a lost cause. The Phillies had that thing in hand 10-3. But the Reds then got 3 in the bottom of the 8th inning and had the bases loaded with 2 out and Cesar Cedeno at the plate. And they brought Tekulve in. And it was a Cedeno that took Tekulve deep at Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, remember, in the 10th inning to win a game. If he could have ripped his 5th or 6th career grand slam right there, that would have tied it up at 10-10. Instead, he looked at strike 3. Actually, it was a 2-0 count when Carmen was relieved. With that 2-0 count on Cedeno, they brought Tekulve in. He threw ball 3, and then he threw 3 straight strikes that Cedeno stood there and watched go by. So we left the bases loaded, and that was our last chance, really. We had a 2-out double by Perez in the 9th, but the last man went out. Concepcion on a ground ball weakly hit to third baseman Rick Shue, and he got him easily at first to win the ball game. So 10-13-0 and 6-10-1, the totals in that one. Now we had our chance to win it right there, possibly with a grand slam. That would have tied it up in the 8th inning. That would have made for a 7-run 8th inning. What a comeback that would have been. But Cedeno looked at a good pitch from Kent, the former Pirate, on the outside corner. It was a good pitch, as we saw in a replay later. And Cesar knew it, too. He went right back to the dugout immediately. So Ozzie Virgil gets the game winner, and I imagine that would have been in a 4-run Phillies 6th. It was 2-0 Reds, 3-2 Phillies, then it was 3-3, then it was 7-3 Phils, and then 10-3, and then eventually 10-6. Good crowd of over 33,000 for the July 20th Farmers Night ball game. Phillies 10 and the Reds 6. And now, while I've got a little bit of time before the start of this afternoon's ball game, let's take a look at some player transactions. I want to update the trade situation over the last several days and weeks. Let's start with that Frank Tanana deal. Tanana going from the Rangers to the Detroit Tigers. So a couple of veteran Rangers have been traded in the last few weeks. Tanana, now Buddy Bell. The Tigers get Tanana in exchange for minor league pitcher Dwayne James, who was assigned to Double-A Tulsa. That was on June the 20th. That was about a month ago. Of course, Billy Gardner has been fired as manager of the Minnesota Twins. Rather unjustly, some people think. He's a pretty good manager, and he had those Twins playing, some decent ball. They win 10, lose 10, win 10, something like that. Ray Miller, the former Baltimore pitching coach, takes over the Minnesota helm on June the 21st. Doug Flynn, the former Red, was signed to a free agent contract for the Tigers in June. Mitch Webster goes to Montreal. Of course, we've talked about him earlier in a game that I did. Webster was in it. He was to Montreal from Toronto June the 20th. Alan Wiggins, who's had all the drug problems in the last few years, and he was banned from playing in San Diego, more or less. And he was eventually traded for just about nothing. Roy Lee Jackson, former Met. I remember Roy Lee in a game in 1980 at Riverfront Stadium that I saw, struck out 13 in something like, it might have been the full 9. It might have been only 8 innings, but he found 13. I think that was a single game high to that point in the National League that year. And that was his only win that he had that season, too. Roy Lee Jackson goes from the Padres organization somehow. He got, or from Baltimore, I should say. Somehow he got there. And he goes to the Padres, is assigned to Las Vegas. And Wiggins went down to Baltimore's AAA team at Rochester on the 20-day rehabilitation program to get back into shape, and now he's been back up and did a good job in his first week of American League action. Of course, Wiggins was one of the top rookies 3 years ago for the Padres, stole all those bases, and played several positions, left field, second base, first base, and of course involved in the drugs twice or 3 times, failed to show up for a Padres game earlier this season. He was banned and suspended by the San Diego team. They said they did not want to take him back and eventually traded him to Baltimore for Roy Lee Jackson and a minor leaguer to be named later on June the 27th. Dwayne Kuiper announced his retirement after the June 27th game at Riverfront Stadium. He had an infield base hit, his final time up in his major league career. Kuiper, of course, started with the Indians back in the 70s. He is more known for hitting just 1 homer than he is for anything else. He only had 1 homer in his lifetime, covering thousands of at-bats. That was hit in 1977 as an Indian. Sid Manji was traded from the Tigers to the Pirates in a deal for another lefty pitcher, Steve Shirley, who we used to see play for the Dodgers. That was in June. Steve Rogers released by Edmonton, AAA for California, July the 2nd. Steve Howe was released. And in the Wiggins mold, Howe with the drug problems, eventually, the Dodgers say strike 3 and you're out. They gave him a couple chances after drug difficulties. He failed to show up for a Sunday game a few weeks ago against Atlanta at Dodger Stadium, and that was all. They said enough's enough. And Steve Howe was released on July 3rd. And a couple of clubs have shown interest in Howe, but nobody's picked him up yet. Let's go to another sheet here, and we find out that Mike Stanton goes to the White Sox from the Mariners. He's a relief pitcher. That was in June. He was signed as a free agent. Ron Renick's been bouncing around. He played in the World Series last year, a pinch runner for the Padres. He goes from San Diego to San Francisco as a free agent late last month. Wasn't doing a very good job at last report with the Giants as a pinch hitter. Was 0 for 4 and had looked at 3 called third strikes as a pinch hitter. Ellis Valentine goes to the Rangers, the former Expo and New York Met. He's assigned to Oklahoma City July the 7th. In a 1-for-1 deal, the Dodgers traded newcomer Al Oliver to the Toronto Blue Jays for first baseman outfielder Lenny Matuzik, the Cincinnati native. That was on July the 9th. In another Dodger deal, on July the 10th, Enos Cabell was obtained by Los Angeles. He's been playing some outfield, third base, first base for him. And he goes to the Dodgers from the Astros for a minor leaguer and a player to be named later. Tim Lawler, the former San Diego Padre who gave up Dave Parker's last Grand Slam last August. Lawler goes to the Red Sox from the White Sox in a deal for Reed Nichols and a minor leaguer to be named on July the 11th. Michael Berry, the former Red, has been signed by the Montreal Expos. He's back in Indianapolis, where he used to play in the Red system. And we've got Herman Rivera being sent to the Astros to complete that Cabell deal on July the 15th. He's a third baseman. We've seen him in past days. Tom Paciorek, former Dodger, of the White Sox, goes to the New York Mets in exchange for a minor leaguer on July 16. And Neil Allen goes back to New York. He's now played for both New York clubs. It was the Mets to the Cardinals a couple of years ago. The Cardinals, July 17th, traded him to the Yankees for a minor leaguer to be named later. And, of course, Buddy Bell to the Reds for Dwayne Walker and a player to be named July the 19th, just 2 days ago. So welcome, Buddy Bell. He got his first put out in the first inning, a pop-up hit along the third base line. I imagine the butterflies were swirling. He said he was quite nervous. Of course, coming back to Riverfront, imagine he has a little tyke. Joe Nuxall says he remembers him running around the clubhouse at Crosley Field when his father Gus played for Cincinnati. And now Bell coming home and was playing before a lot of family and friends on Friday and did okay. No errors in the field. Caught a ball or two, fielded several ground balls flawlessly, went 1 for 4 at the plate, and then the next day 0 for 3 with a couple of bases on balls. So he's 1 out of 7 in his first 2 games as a Red. Of course, you got to realize it's going to take him a while probably to get acclimated to the National League scene. Has never played in the NL before. He played for the Indians and the Rangers in past years and compiled a very good 284 lifetime average right up to the time he was acquired. His lifetime average was 284. Not bad at all for the 13-year veteran, but he's never faced the National League pitchers. Although the guy we faced yesterday, who went hitless against, Shane Raleigh, he no doubt had faced him in the past when Raleigh was with the Yankees and before that the Seattle Mariners. So there you have the trade update over the last several weeks. Of course, the Reds involved in one of those deals. Can you remember the last time the Reds have obtained in mid-season a starting ball player, a non-pitcher? I guess the last time we got a starter would have been Tom Seaver in the middle of the 1977 season. The last time we got a quality non-pitcher in midstream there, in the middle of a baseball season. I can't remember that happening before, picking up a quality player like Buddy Bell for really so little, a player to be named, and Dwayne Walker. When you really look at him, he wasn't getting much playing time at all. Only 8 base hits, a 167 average for Dwayne and was the most little-used ball player on the ball club. So if you have to give up just that to get Buddy Bell, why not get him? We understand that Wayne Krenchicki and Nick Saski and Gary Reedus are not too happy about the situation with Saski possibly playing some outfield later this year. Krenchicki's playing time is going to be severely curtailed because Bell is going to be at third base day in and day out, says manager-player Pete Rose. But Pete says, well, you got a chance to win the pennant and you got a chance to get a quality player like Bell. Why not go out and get him? And the Reds did. Bill Burkish engineering the trade this week, or last week, that brings Buddy Bell back home to the place that he resides. He was born in Pittsburgh when his father Gus was playing for the Pirates in his 15-year tour of duty in Major League Baseball. And they had a nice scoreboard snumper the other day. Gus and Buddy Bell are second all-time in home runs by a father and son duo, only trailing the 400-plus homers of Yogi Berra and his son Dale Berra, who now plays for the New York Yankees. Dale's got 47 career homers. Buddy Bell with 151 homers, 4 this year with the Texas Rangers, and we're waiting for his first, RBI as a Cincinnati Red. Hopefully that'll come this afternoon. Reds against the Phillies wrap up a 4 at Riverfront Stadium. The Reds will hit the road after this ball game. It's a doubleheader of sorts today. Reds against the Phillies, and then the Beach Boys performing for the second time in as many years at the stadium. And hopefully they won't get rained out. They're forecasting some showers and thunderstorms in the area. And we hope that we get it in and gain a split in the series. The Reds hit the road, go to New York for 3 starting tomorrow, and then to Montreal for 4 to complete a 7-game road trip. So it's Reds and the Phillies on July 21st coming up.
Reds have turned one double play in this game, and right now it would be very, very well received to see Wilson hit into another one. Earlier double play, Samuel banged into back in the 6th. Kent Colby throwing in the Phil's pen. Power stretches, delivers. Wilson takes it high and inside. Ball 1. Power at the moment is in a 4th place tie in the league in the saves department with Bruce Sutter of the Atlanta Braves. Swung on, foul bat. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jeff Reardon is the major league leader in that department with a total of 23. Lee Smith has 21 out of the Cub bullpen. Goose Gossage with 20. And then come Power and Sutter with 16 apiece. 1-1 pitch. Just outside, ball 2. Carmen standing on deck at the moment, but you can bet that he would be taken down. Foul ball off the end of the bat. Now Power even up on Wilson. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Johnny Franco works an inning in 1/3, allows a hit, walked 2, struck out 3. At the moment, has not allowed any runs, but Schmidt, his responsibility, camped out at first base. They really give Wilson a lot of room on the left side of the infield. Concepcion shading him toward the middle of the diamond. Bell toward the line. Pitch is taken high, 3-2. Power ready with a payoff. Schmidt will draw the throw, however, at first base. Ted steps back on and stretches on the mound. Here comes a payoff. Schmidt holds at first. Swung on. Bouncing ball up the middle. Concepcion steps on second. Throws to first. Double play. Ask and ye shall deliver. And boy, it was tailor-made, that big bouncing ball over the mound. Davey was playing him toward the middle anyway. Fielded on the second hop, stepped on the bag, and made the throw to Pete at first. And, well, they're down to their final out, and Tim Corcoran will pinch hit for Don Carmen. Corcoran, a left-handed batter, hitting .268 without a home run and 17 RBIs. Check that. Carmen was out there, but he's been taken down. Greg Gross will be the batter. Not Corcoran, but Gross, another left-handed hitter. Gross not normally a home run threat. You always hesitate to say that about a hitter because just as soon as you say it, he proves you a liar. But his career statistics would certainly dictate that. He does make contact. He looks at the first pitch, and it's a strike. Gross has hit a grand total of 6 home runs in a major league career that dates back to 1973 when he first surfaced with the Houston Astros. And 5 of those homers came in one season with the Cubs in '77. He fouls it off, strike 2. But a lifetime .295 batting average, so he can swing the bat. Phillies down to their last out, their final strike. Power has Gross in a hole, no balls and 2 strikes. Ted ready to work one more time. The stretch, the pause, and the pitch. And it just stayed away for a ball. He had a string broken last night, Power. 8 appearances in a row. Before that one, he had 7 saves and a win. But can chalk it up here if he can get Gross out to end the game. The pitch. And a foul straight back. Should Gross get aboard with 2 out, we'll see John Russell again. Power will exchange baseballs with John McSherry. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count. 2 men out, nobody on, top of the 9th. Power with a nod of the head and on to the plate. He struck him out swinging. And this one belongs to the Reds. A Dave Parker 2-run home run in the 7th inning, and the Reds come from behind to defeat Philadelphia 7-6. We'll be back in just a moment. Those 2, and it was 3-0 Phillies. The Reds got a run in the 3rd inning on a single by Bill Ardello, a sacrifice bunt by John Stuper, and a run-scoring single by Eddie Milner, and forged into a 4th inning tie when Parker singled. Buddy Bell picked up his first RBI as a Cincinnati Red with a triple to deep right center, and then scored later when Ron Oster grounded into a double play. But the Phillies took the lead in the 6th inning on a home run to left off the bat of Rick Shue. They go out in front 4-3. In the bottom half of the 6th inning, the Reds gained the lead. 2 outs. Oster singles. Bill Ardello hits his first home run of the year, and the Reds are in front 5-4. In the 7th inning, the Phillies come back again with 2 down. Glenn Wilson homers to left to tie it. Bo Diaz then triples a ball that both Oster and Parker converged on in shallow right with the ball going through for 3 bases. That was it for Bob Buchanan. Johnny Franco came on. John Russell had a base hit to left, and the Phillies were out in front 6-5. That's the way it stood with Don Carmen on the mound in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Rita's pinch hit for Milner led off with a walk, but then he was picked off of first base, and they knocked him off stealing on the throw down to second. Cedeno batted for Venable. He flied to right, but then Pete Rose broke an 0-for-11 slump with a base hit to center field, and that set the stage for this blow by Dave Parker.
Swung on, it's stay fair. Stay fair. That might be way out of here, and it is. Oh, Dave Parker jumps on Don Simon, and he hits one way back in the green seats to make it a 7-6 ball game.
That's, of course, the way it ended up. John Franco got a walk in the 8th inning to Ozzie Virgil, but picked up 3 strikeouts in that frame, including Samuel and Hayes back-to-back to end the Philadelphia 8. In the 9th inning, he walked Mike Schmidt to lead it off, and at that point, Pete brought on right-hander Ted Power. He got Glenn Wilson to ground into a 6-3 double play and wrapped up the one-run victory by striking out Greg Gross, a pinch hitter, to end the game. The Reds had 7 runs, 11 hits, and left 4. The Phillies 6 runs, 11 hits, and they left 8. Franco has won 8 games in a row now. He's 8-1 on the season. Power gets his 17th save as he continues to pitch out-of-sight baseball. And Carmen 2-3, the losing pitcher. Tomorrow night, the first of 7 that the Reds will be playing away from Riverfront Stadium. They open up a series at Shea against the very hot New York Mets, winners of 15 of their last 16 ball games. It'll be Mario Soto for the Reds. It'll be a left-hander, Sid Fernandez for New York. We'll have it for you, beginning with the pregame shows at 7:05 tomorrow night. Again, the final score today, a game that took 2 hours and 24 minutes to play, before a crowd of 30,327. The Reds 7 and the Phillies 6.
Well, this is DVP back Mike's side. That was Marty Brenneman with the Scores and Comments program following this afternoon's exciting Reds win. A come-from-behind, seesaw-type ball game. The Reds trailed, then they went ahead by 1, then they trailed by 1 again, then it went ahead by 1 again, and that was to stay with 2 in the 7th inning. The Reds had 5 consecutive multi-hit innings in this game. Kind of interesting. They got 2 hits in the 3rd, 2 more in the 4th, 2 more in the 5th, 2 more hits in the 6th, and 2 more in the 7th. They had 2 runs on 2 hits in 3 different innings, and nobody was left on base in any of those frames. It's the exact same totals. We only left 4 on in the ball game, but had 11 base hits. The Phillies left twice that many, and they also had 11 hits. So things were fairly even in this game. No errors in the ball game, 11 hits apiece, and some good pitching on both sides on occasion in this contest, although overall, with 13 runs being scored, I guess it's not exactly a pitcher's duel. The Phillies core giving up 11 hits and 7 runs all earned in 8 innings with 3 walks and 5 strikeouts. The Reds in the full 9 giving up 11 hits and 6 runs all earned with 5 bases on balls and 7 strikeouts in this one. As the fine relief tandem of John Franco and Ted Power continue to do the job out of Rose's bullpen. They combined today to go 2 1/3, allow just 1 hit, no runs. They struck out 4 and walked 2 batters, and they account for the win and the save. Franco gets his 8th win. Power gets his career-high 17th save, and that's a club-leading total by 14, and that is 4th in the league as he moves out in front of Bruce Sutter. And, well, I don't think Sutter could have got one today because the Mets blasted him for the 2nd straight day. 15-10 today. New York over Atlanta, so the Reds have gained some ground on the Braves. And, in fact, we gained on the 2 other ball clubs ahead of us. The Padres lost to Pittsburgh. I think that was a 5-2 final. And in a score late from the coast at Los Angeles, the St. Louis Cardinals avoided a sweep in that series as the Cardinals came up with a 4-2 extra inning win on a Steve Braun pinch hit homer in extra innings. So that puts the Reds 5 games back and to within 4.5 of their, actually 3.5. Wait a minute here. We'd be 4, and I guess we'd be only 3.5 now behind San Diego. As, no, we're not. We're 4.5 behind the Padres, excuse me. As we were 5.5 behind them. So the Reds now just 5 games behind as they close out this 11-game homestand on a winning note. It was a tough-fought win. Dave Parker with a big home run that you heard earlier, and you'll hear it again later on this cassette, along with the other highlights of the Reds' run production in this ball game. An outstanding contest. I think this is one of the better games of the year. We got the good relief pitching, as I mentioned, and the good clutch hitting late in the ball game. We had 2 rallies with nobody on and 2 out. And we had 2 out, 2-run homers in the game, one by Bill Ardello, and then the last one to the game winner in the 7th by Dave Parker. As Dave broke out of a mini slump today, he had been 0 for his previous 9 before a base hit in the 4th inning. Went 2 out of his last 3 in this one. That final hit a biggie for his 11th game-winning RBI of the year. That leads the team by 7. He's now out in front in home runs on the ball club by 10, and he leads in RBIs now by 34 over Nick Esaski, who was second with 31. So an MVP-type year, as we continue to say, for Dave Parker. He is having a sensational year, his best since he won the MVP in '78. It's his 17th home run and equals his high for this decade of the '80s. It's the first time he's had 17 since he had that many with the 1980 Pirates. When he hits his 18th, it'll be his highest since his 79 total for Pittsburgh. And should he go past the 94 RBIs that he had last year, that would be his highest since 1978, when he had a career high of over 100 with Pittsburgh in his MVP season. So you can see by the numbers that Dave is on his way to a great year, his second year in a Reds uniform. Of course, we talked about all the great things that Parker did last year, and he's doing them one better, it seems, here in 1985. Well, you heard the comments made by Marty Brunneman, and I guess I should apologize for some of the static on the air, although if I was forced to do it off of AM WLW this afternoon, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to hear anything. I was able to pull in an FM station from Franklin, Indiana, and luckily I was able to get that, so I was able to get these highlights, but a lot of thunderstorms in the tri-state today. And, of course, there was a rain delay. Yes, there was at the beginning of this ball game. They would delayed play by a quarter of an hour because of rain. It really wasn't raining, but the Zambonis had to do their thing on the field to get up the moisture, so there was a delay. The first time there's been a delay in a Reds game in a while. They had a 1 hour, 13-minute delay a few weeks ago. I think that was at Philadelphia. And the first time they've been delayed at home in a little while. And, of course, they had back-to-back rainouts last month against Los Angeles. That'll have to be made up next month and the month after that. And what with the lightning that went on, surrounding my radio here that I had sitting recording the highlights, even on the FM station you could hear some of the static. And there was actually a brief pause in there in the scores and comments when lightning did hit and we had a power outage here at the house, so I apologize for that. We still got the highlights intact. And that seventh inning home run called by Nuxall, he was a little bit excited as he wants to get on occasion, and you don't blame him. That big blast by Dave with 2 out, nothing going on at the time. Rose came up with a big base hit. You got to underline that hit by Pete. He's been doing his job of late, although he's only won for his last 12. But still, he's really accounted for 2 of the wins, I would have to say. He's kind of directly with the winning runs crossing the plate. Pete had 2 sac flies and a tight 1-run win on Friday night. So without those, we don't win, probably. Unless somebody else picks him up with the sacrifice flies, but Rose got him. And a big hit today to score the tying run. Otherwise, the Parker homer would have just knotted it at 6-6. So Rose scored the tying run, Parker the go-ahead. And that proved to be the game winner and yet another Reds 1-run win. The Reds are 19-10 now in 1-run games. And looking at some of the other Reds records here, and we have compiled, the Reds are now 24-23 at Riverfront Stadium. 5-6 they complete this homestand. They'll go on the road tomorrow with a 22-20 road record. Against the Eastern Division, they're 25-21, very good. Against left-handers, who they beat today in Carmen, 11-12 against the Southpaws. They had a streak of 3 straight wins against lefties, but then lost 1 or 2. In daytime play, 19 wins in 36 such games, and 2-2 since the All-Star game. 7-10 in the month of July. So still under 500 there, but a lot better than July a few years ago. In 1982, 7 is all we won all month. We've already won 7 in this month. And they're hanging right in there in the National League West, well in front of Houston in 3rd place in the West. So this is the best standing, the best record at this point of the season for the Reds since '81. The Reds finish out against Philadelphia. That's the first club that the Reds have closed out play against this season. They're 7-5 final against the Phillies, 3-3 at Riverfront. They split a 2-game series back in May 13 and 14, and now split this 4-game set, as the Reds win games 2 and 4 and lose games 1 and 3. The Reds finished out with a very good 4-2 slate at Veterans Stadium. The Reds are 7-2 in extra inning games, so very good in the close ball games. 19 one-run wins, a .655 winning percentage in such games. Let's have a look at my records now for 22 ball games scored here in the '85 season. My record goes 4 over 500 to a .591 winning percentage at 13-9. Very, very good. 2-3 in the month of July, and 2-1 final record against Philadelphia. 7-3 road record, 6-6 at home, and now 4 consecutive one-run victories, and 4-1 overall in one-run games. That is 4-0 in the last 4 one-run games, I should say, to clarify. I'm not on a 4-game winning streak, although the Reds have won 2 of my last 3 and 8 of the last 11 and 10 of 14. They've still lost 3 of the last 5, so back on the winning ways now, plus 500 in the last 3. So 13-9 for the year, making for the makings of a second straight good year. I've scored 35 of the Reds' wins, which have totaled now 116 in the last 2 seasons under Vern Rapp and Pete Rose. And so there you have my records for 22 bowl games. How about lifetime statistics? 404 Reds games. This is win number 234. That goes back to July of 75, 10 years ago this month. A winning percentage of .579 in the games with the Reds for 11 seasons. The umpires for this one behind the plate was great big John McSherry. At first base, Charlie Williams. At second, Randy Marsh. The umpire at third was the crew chief, Billy Williams. The game was underway, as I mentioned, behind schedule because of the rain. A downpour about an hour before game time, so the field was very wet. And it still was wet throughout the game, but it was drying up quickly because of that heat and humidity. Partly cloudy and partly sunny at the ballpark. 60% chance of rain, which did come true before the game, but no rain delays during the game. High today at 85, but it must have been well over 100 on the field with that rain, and then the sun coming out immediately. That really made for a sauna bath, as they said, down on the field. Low tonight, only 72. A 15-minute rain delay at the start of the game. It was underway at 2:30 Cincinnati time. Actually, a little bit in front of that. It was 2:29 plus, but round that up to 2:30. The Reds have now won, and let me see here, what do I have in this statistic? The Reds have won 2 of their last 3, and 3 of the last 5, and 5 of the last 8. They've lost 3 of 6, 2 of 4, and 10 of 17. The Phillies have won 2 of their last 4 after losing 5 in a row, so they've still lost 7 of their last 9 games, and 2 of the last 3 in this series. It was right-handed veteran John Denny going for Philadelphia against left-handed 6-year veteran Joe Price for the Cincinnati Reds. Price, a little bit of a question mark because of an arm problem that he suffered a couple of weeks ago. He had not made a start in about 10 days and only went 2 innings today. And he was removed, probably a variety of reasons. It was very, very hot on the field. I don't know, that could have played a part in Price losing some strength on the mound, and also his arm problem, which has cropped up. He was having some tenderness in the shoulder or the elbow. And also the fact that he didn't pitch very well in this one, giving up 3 hits and as many runs in 2 innings, so he only went 2, but he came out of it with a no decision. He remains on a 2-game losing streak now. He's 2-2, his last win coming June the 8th. So you look at that, 2 of our starters have not won since early June, but still the Reds right in the thick of things. That shows you how good these young pitchers that have come along have been in picking up the slack, namely Ronnie Robinson and Tom Browning in some games, although he's on a 2-game losing streak right now. Also, point a finger at Ted Power and John Franco, and also Tom Hume, who have been doing just a fine job this season. And picking up that slack for Price, who has not won since June 8th against the Padres, and Soto, Mario, the ace of the staff supposedly, who has not won a game since beating the Pirates on June the 4th. He's lost 8 straight, while Franco, with the win, has now won 8 in a row. That's the longest winning streak since Soto's 8-game winning streak in 1984. And it ties Mario for club lead in wins. Can you believe it? Franco has won as many games as Soto, and he's lost 10 fewer. He was 0-1 at one point. He's now 8-1 on the season. He has won 3 games in his last 4 outings, and has not allowed a run in his last 10 games. And a similar streak can be uttered about Ted Power, who picks up his 17th save, and that is 6 more than he had all of last year when he led the team. And 17 saves are the most since Tom Hume had that many in 1982. When he gets his 18th save, it'll be the most by a Red in the decade of the 80s. Well, since 1980, I should say. In 1980, Tom Hume, Fireman of the Year, had 25 saves. And Power should easily pass that on the pace that he's going right now. He's being used in just those critical relief situations when you can get a save. Power is 17 of 18 in safe situations. You can't do a lot better than that. So he's one up on Bruce Sutter now, that $2 million man for the Atlanta Braves. So Power, with much better stats than Suter's, got an ERA of, I think, well over 3. Power is down to 1.49. You can almost see it. He's below 1.5 now. Unbelievably good pitching for both Franco and Power. You got to tip your cap to them every time they go on the mound. I tell you, they've been outstanding. The 2 former Dodger products, we got Power and Franco really for less than a song. We got Franco in that deal for Rafael Landistoi, who's now toiling in the Astros system at Tucson someplace. That was in 1983, and he turns out to be a standout reliever. Last year, a fine job, a .251 earned run average, several saves, and 6 wins. He's now 14-3 in his career, and we got Power in the purchase transactions from the Dodgers in 1982. And he's turned out to be one of the better relievers in the league last year and this one. He had a .292 ERA last season that led all the Reds pitchers with more than 100 innings, so a back-to-back outstanding years for Power. And also Franco and also Dave Parker, who are 3 of our stars in this game. I'll continue with more on Side B. I'll see you there. Well, welcome aboard once again. This is side 2 of 2 for this broadcast on Sunday, July the 21st, 1985. And it was a good one this afternoon at Riverfront Stadium. And the crowd all geared up now for the Beach Boys concert, which is going on down on the field at Riverfront Stadium. Hopefully they're not getting rained on. The Beach Boys coming into town for the second time in as many summers. They were on hand last August the 19th following a Reds loss at the hands of the Chicago Cubs. So it wasn't a very good atmosphere as far as the Reds winning the game last year when the Beach Boys came in. But this one, a come-from-behind late inning 7-6 win over the Phillies. And on a getaway day for the Reds, too, it's always nice to have a win. And they split this 4-game series. The last time they met, the Reds came up with a win on the final day, beating Tekulve 3-2-10. Another come-from-behind style win, and that gave them a split in that long 4-game series. So they had 2 2-gamers and 2 4-game series against the Phillies this year, and the Reds win 7 of those 12 games against that NL East struggling team, which is in 5th place now. They lost for the 51st time on the year tonight. Then they lost a game to the winning Cardinals, so they're 14.5 back. So the Reds much better off than those Phils, who just recently, just 2 years ago, won the National League pennant when they had such names as Tony Perez, Pete Rose, and Joe Morgan on their roster. And so the Reds will go to New York tomorrow, a couple of night games and then a day encounter, and then to Montreal for 3 nights and a day before coming back home to Riverfront Stadium on July the 30th to take on the Houston Astros, who picked up a win today. But the Reds gaining ground on losing Los Angeles and losing San Diego and losing Atlanta today. The Mets have scored 30 runs in the last 2 games. That's a 2-game Mets record. Well, those Braves have been involved in some strange ball games this year. You got to keep in mind that May 1st ball game, Braves winning 17-9 over the Reds at Riverfront Stadium. A gob of home runs, a lot of hits in that one. The first home run hit at Riverfront Stadium on the season, amazingly. Didn't come until May 1 in that strange game. Then they had that wild 19-inning affair on the 4th of July, a game I'll never forget. Rick Camp, a big home run. Terry Harper, a home run to tie it up in the extra innings. It went to 4 in the morning, and the Braves lost it. And more often than not, in those wild and strange ones, the Braves end up on the losing end. They're not having a very good year under Eddie Haas this season. And they've lost back-to-back games, wild ones to the Mets. Darryl Strawberry, 7 RBIs yesterday in the July 20th encounter. That's a major league high this year, 7 ribbies in one game. He had a grand slam and a 3-run home run as he's starting to heat up now. He did a good job in the All-Star game, and he's been doing a fine job since then in that series at Atlanta. And also today, 15-10 is the final, 15-4 yesterday. So the Braves score 14 times in 2 days and don't come close to winning either one of those games against those hot New York Mets, who the Reds will be playing tomorrow. So we got to face those Mets when they're just boiling. 30 runs in 2 games, 15 wins in their last 16. Unbelievable. Of course, the Reds, when they last saw them, the Mets swept us a 3-game series. By the way, that's the first time that's ever happened. I didn't know that until we read the Sporting News this last week. The first time the Mets have ever swept a 3-game series at Riverfront Stadium since it opened in 1970. Talking to the Sporting News, I wrote down a note here about Dave Parker and the Sporting News. He had a fine write-up by Hal McCoy in this week's Sporting News, July 22nd edition. McCoy writing a fine article on Parker's great year, and he had played 79 games at that point and was in the top 5 in 5 different NL batting categories, and he was 6th in batting average with a .305 mark. They had some fine things to say on Parker, and Parker himself had some comments on his career saying that he has no doubt in his mind that he's going to hang him up as a 300-plus hitter. He was batting .303 lifetime entering this season, and he's just about that right now. He's .299 on the year. He slipped below 300 this series for the first time since the 30th of April, and hopefully with some hits tomorrow, he'll get it back above the 300 mark. He's gone through a couple of dry spells since really starting to gear up on May 1. That was the start of his Player of the Month He had his Player of the Month in May when he batted .336. In that May 1st game I mentioned, that big loss to the Braves, Parker really started getting things in order in that game. He had his first homer of the year that day, a yellow cedar, and knocked in 4 runs, a game high for a game in which Atlanta scored 17, so that was good. And that started his way onto just a brilliant season to this point. Somewhat of a sluggish start in April. He had 5 RBIs in April, but then came up with 8 home runs in May, and then he had 5 or 6 more in June. Has built at least 3 this month. He's had a couple in the last week. A big one today. Another game-winning shot by Parker. I should have also mentioned that Parker's 17 homers are the most by a Red since 1983, when Gary Reedus led the team with 17. So when Parker hits his 18th homer, it'll be the most It'll be the most by a Red, will you believe, since 81, when George Foster hit 22, because in 82, Dan Dreesen led the ball club with 17, and then 17 led again the next year. 16 by Parker led last season by several. And Parker's going to run away with the Triple Crown for the Reds this season. Batting average, home runs, and RBIs, plus game winners, doubles, total bases, slugging, and just about everything else. Let's go to the starting lineups here for the visiting Philadelphia Phillies in their 90th game of the year. They started Juan Samuel, who's been a Reds killer this season. He's knocked in 15 and has hit 3 homers against the Reds. He belted his second in 2 games to lead off this one in the first inning. Entering this one, he had a .265 average with 39 RBIs and 9 homers. I should say that homer is his 16th ribby and his 3rd homer against the Reds this season. He's had 2 3-run homers against us, a game-winning shot off Tom Browning back in May at Riverfront, and all 3 of those homers have come at Riverfront. And then one last night, another 3-run homer, I should say, and I think it was, and solo blast today. Yeah, Samuel had quite a day yesterday. An opposite field 3-run homer it was yesterday, or last night. Knocked in 5 in that game that the Phillies won 10-6. Von Hayes batting second in center field, and Von hitting .272 with 8 home runs and 44 runs batted in. Hitting third at first base is Mike Schmidt. 12 home runs, 40 RBIs, a .240 average. Hitting cleanup in right field is Glenn Wilson, an all-star performer this year. 8 homers, he's knocked in 63, tied with Parker at game time, a .265 average. Batting fifth is their catcher, Bo Diaz. Rumors are swirling now that the Reds want Diaz, but I don't know why they want him so badly. He's hitting .193. He's been on the disabled list about 4 times in the last 2 years. He's knocked in 11, has hit no homers, hasn't hit many home runs since he had his only career grand slam in the National League back in 1983. I don't know why I mentioned that, but I just happened to think about it. Hit a big grand slam off Neil Allen in that famous 10-9 Philadelphia win over the Mets in April of 1983, a game in which the Mets walked a ton of people, and Diaz cracked it out for the Phillies' 4th straight win at that time. And Diaz hasn't hit many homers since then. He hasn't played a whole lot since 83. Batting sixth in left field is John Russell. He's only hitting .190 in limited duty. He's been up and down between the Phillies and Portland. He's had a couple of homers, has driven in 6. Batting 7th at third base is rookie Rick Shue, a powerfully built right-handed hitter. Looks like he's going to be their third baseman for a long time. They thought enough of him to move Schmidt, longtime third baseman, to first. And that's worked out very well because Mike, the Daytonian, has done just a fine job at first base. And Shue's batting .275, no homers, 4 RBIs. Last year I looked him up. I thought maybe this home run today was his first major league homer, but it wasn't. Last season he did quite a job hitting .276 in just a handful of games. And he had a bunch of extra base hits. He had a couple of triples, a double, hit 2 homers for the Phillies after a late season call-up last season. Rick Shue, S-C-H-U. Batting 8th at shortstop is Steve Jeltz. He's only batting .189. So 4 of the last 5 batters in this order are under 200. I assume that Denny was, but I don't have his average. Jeltz, no homers. He's knocked in 11, the same as Diaz. Batting 9th is John Denny, the former Cardinal and Cleveland Indian. He's in his 3rd year with the Philadelphia Phillies, 3rd full year with him. They got him in September of '82, and a deal for a couple of minor leaguers, Leroy Smith and Will Colmer, in that deal, and I also think Jerry Reed in that trade. So Denny, the 1983 NL Cy Young Award winner with the Phillies, is having a subpar 85 season. He's given up a ton of base hits. He's averaging 10.22 hits allowed per 9 innings, and that's not good at all. Coming into this game at 5-7 with a very high number of hits and not a very good ERA at 3.68. It's not exactly sensational for a pitcher that is usually in the 250, 275 range. And Denny had a pretty good career with the St. Louis Cardinals when they traded him in the Bobby Bonds trade to the Indians in 1979. And then he comes to the Phillies in the latter stages of the 82 season and did a fine job for him, too, and then helped him to win the 83 pennant. And not a whole lot for the Philly success since then. For the Cincinnati Reds, Ed Milner leads off in center field. Eddie checks into this one at just .230. He hasn't hit a home run this year. That really surprises me because he is capable of hitting some home runs. As I mentioned in an earlier tape, he had not gone into June homerless, ever since he became a Red from opening day 1982. And from 82 to 84, he had either hit a home run in April or May, but this year has gone now into the latter stages of July with no home runs. Well, I'm waiting for him to get one. Maybe he'll get one on the next road trip. He's not had a very good year with the bat. He has stolen 18 bases, second on the team. He's driven in 15 runs. Had a good day today, though. Was on base all 3 times. Was 2 out of 3 and knocked in a run. Hitting second in left field is lefty swinging Max Venable. And Venable's been doing a good job out there. He's been getting a lot of playing time also. Rose has been impressed. A 7-game hitting streak for Venable. A .277 average coming in. No homers, 2 RBIs. The former Giant. Hitting third is Pete Rose, the player-manager at first base, batting just .260, was in an 0-for-9 slump coming in. I mentioned that big base hit in the 7th stopped that, and he was on base and came around on the big Parker homer. Rose has 1 homer. That came in May at Chicago. Henning has driven in 27, and that's third on the team. 1 up on nicely now, with those 2 sac flies on Friday against the Phils. Hitting clean up in right field is Dave Parker. And Dave down to .297, his low point since April. In an 0-for-8 dry spell with the 16 homers and 63 ribbies, but he cracked out of that with the single and then the home run late in the game. Hitting 5th, the first time I've ever scored this individual, although I might have done him in an American League game when I did a few of those back in the 70s, Buddy Bell at third base. The right-handed hitting 33-year-old, 14-year veteran, coming to the Reds just 2 days ago in the deal from the Texas Rangers for Dwayne Walker. And off to a bit of a slow start at the plate, but, got to give him a little leeway. He's learning these pitchers in the National League and also playing on AstroTurf for the first time. His home field has never been an AstroTurf field, Municipal Stadium with Cleveland, Arlington Stadium with Texas, and they don't have all that many artificially turfed ballparks in the American League, but he has not made an error on the artificial carpet so far in 3 games. Had a triple today, had his first NL extra base hit and his first RBI as an NLer and as a Red. That's coming up with a 4th inning highlight. So Buddy gets on the board with a ribby. Entering this one with an average of 143 in the National League with 2 runs scored and 2 walks, 1 hit in 7 at-bats. Had a hit off Carmen on Friday night in the 8th inning for his first National League hit. In the American League this year with the Rangers, he was batting .236 when acquired by the Reds with 4 homers, 32 RBIs, 3 game winners, 13 doubles and 3 triples, and 33 runs scored with 3 stolen bases in a total of 84 ball games for Texas. Had a base hit in his final game as a Ranger on Thursday before being acquired the next day. It was 1 for 2 and helped the Rangers to a win 3-2 over Texas. By the way, those Rangers, Bell's former team, came up with another win today as they scored 3 in the last inning to beat the Tigers by a run. So the Rangers won 3 of those 4 games in that series at Detroit. And Bell helped them out in one of those games on Thursday. And that brings us to Davey Concepcion, the shortstop. It's interesting to note that all 5 of the Reds currently on the roster with 2,000 or more career hits all played today. And it looks like 4 of them started no, that's not correct. 4 of the 5 played because Perez didn't get in. That's a record. 5 players on the same ball club with 2,000 or more career hits. You add them all up and you get a ton of base hits. That's probably more than probably more than 2 rosters put together when you put a couple of different clubs together. Among the National League or the American League teams, I imagine you could find 2 clubs with a lot of rookies that have less hits combining all their players, than do those 5 Reds veterans. And Buddy Bell, Pete Rose, Tony Perez, Dave Concepcion, and Cesar Cedeno. And incidentally, 3 of those 5 got their 2,000th hit this year. Cedeno and Concepcion for the Reds, and Bell earlier this season for Texas. And Bell also had his 1,000th lifetime hit as a Ranger earlier this season. And of course, a couple of milestones there, and ultimately is traded. He requested the trade and waived the no-trade clause in his contract. So he had 3 out of 4 in the order. Rose, Bell, Concepcion all have 2,000 hits. He also had Cedeno entering the game late as a pinch hitter. That is quite an achievement, having enough veterans with 2,000 hits to stack your roster with them. That's 1/5 of the roster right there with that number of hits. And, of course, Rose tops them all, getting number 4158 today. That leaves him just 33 away from Cobb's record of 4191. Concepcion at shortstop, he recently passed Johnny Bench on the all-time Reds list and went into 2nd place among Reds players in hits with number 2049. He's had a few more than that since then, accumulating a 7-game hitting streak. 259 average for Concepcion, who picked up his 2,000th base hit earlier this season, of course, with his I think it might have been his 34th hit of the year, something like that, was number 2,000. And Davey is having a fairly good season with 5 home runs, his highest output in a few seasons. and he has driven in 25 runs and has 3 game-winning hits. Batting 7th at second base is the steady man, Ronnie Oster. He's having a good year. His 7-game hitting streak has pushed his average to 293, and that's to within 4 points of team leader Dave Parker. So Oster really snuck up there. Remember that horrible start he got off to not only this year but last year? He was something like 1 for his first 20 this season, and banged out of that in a hurry, and has done just a fine job. Of course, last year after the All-Star break, he really started to cook, hitting about 300 after the break, when he's only batting 220 at the break. This season, he's been fairly consistent after that 1 for 20 start. And Ronnie is without a home run this season, but he didn't hit his first one last year until August either. And he has driven in 18 runs. Next in the order is Danny Bellardello, the catcher. He's been getting a lot of playing time, while with Alan Nicely's being in a slump. Nicely's in an 0 for 13 dry spell that has dropped his average from 278 to 255. His last base hit was on the 8th of this month, whereas Bellardello has had a few multi-hit games of late. His average is still only 175, but he belted a big home run today, which I'll highlight. Entered the game with 4 RBIs. Next is Joe Price, the pitcher. He's looking for his first hit. Didn't get a chance to hit today. He's 0 for 14 on the season. Let's have a look at this one play-by-play now, top half of the first inning. And the 5th pitch of this game is deposited over the left field fence by Juan Samuel. His 2nd homer in 2 games, his 10th home run of the season, his 3rd against the Reds. They had 3 homers in this game, the Phillies did. The Reds had 2. And the difference there being the Reds had 2 2-run shots, and all 3 of the Phillies homers were with the bases empty, so that could have made the difference right there. A leadoff homer to left field by Samuel on a 2-2 pitch from Joe Price. That's the 10th homer that Joe has allowed this year, and the 10th that Samuel has hit. Not all off Price, but he's touched up quite a few pitchers. That is 2nd on the team in home runs, Samuel. He's only the 2nd player to get into double figures. He's only 2 behind Schmidt, who hit his 12th of the year on Thursday in this series. And then Von Hayes hit a fly ball to left field. Schmidt hit a ground ball to shortstop. Easy hop for Concepcion. He gunned him down. And then Wilson hit a ground ball to third. They got a run on a hit. In the bottom of the first inning, the Reds' leadoff man gets a base hit, but unfortunately, it's not a 4-base type. It's only a 1-base safety for Eddie Milner. That was on the first pitch to him. The first pitch that Denny threw in the game, Milner wrapped it into right for a ground ball single. Then on the first pitch to Venable, he hit into a force play. That went 4-6, Samuel to Jeltz, and then Venable stole a base. He's been swiping a few of late. He now moves above Pete Rose, 1 behind Cesar Cedeno. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He'd be 6th on the team in steals, with Venable's 6th of the year in 8 tries. The Reds were 1 out of 2 in stolen base in this game, and that makes him 103 out of 141. That's a pretty good percentage of 73% successful. And Venable successful all but 2 of 8 attempts. So Max is at second base with 1 out for Rose, who had a line drive to second base, and then Parker on a 3-2 pitch went down swinging. And that put him in the 0 for 9 dry spell. That's not really that lengthy of a streak, but for Parker it is this year. And a lot of those are strikeouts. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. The Phillies expand the lead to 3-0. So this is a fine come-from-behind style win for the Reds. As the Phillies got 2 more off a Price in the 2nd inning, they sent 8 men to the plate. A 4-pitch walk to Diaz, then a foul pop to the catcher by John Russell. Shue had a single into left field, Jeltz a single into right field to get Diaz home and move Shue around to third base. An RBI for Steve is 12th of the year. Then John Denny on the first pitch at a ground ball 4-3. That got another run in as Jeltz moved to second base and Shue scored. So 3-0. Then an intentional walk to Samuel. They respect him in this series as they put him on for Von Hayes. And they take their chances lefty against lefty. And Hayes, well, he took ball 4, so the base is loaded for Mike Schmidt. And Schmidt went down swinging. A good job there by Price, but he gave up 2 runs on 2 hits. And also 3 walks in that inning, no errors, and 3 runners left on base. In the bottom of the 2nd inning, the Reds need to play catch-up here, but they go out 1, 2, 3 on 3 grounders. Buddy Bell opens the inning with a ground ball to short. Oster ends the inning with a ground ball to Jeltz, and in between was a Concepcion ground ball to Rick Shue at third. So that's all. In the Philly half of the 3rd inning against a new pitcher, John Stuper, he starts off not so hot here, giving up hits to 2 of the first 3 men, but he doesn't allow any runs in this game. And overall, a good outing for John Stuper, his first in a while. In his previous 2 games combined, he had gone 2 innings, had given up 7 runs in those innings. His ERA had rocketed to 5.79. I thought it wouldn't be too long before Stuper maybe was sent down or traded or something. Maybe it'd be nice, and maybe we could get him to the Rangers as the player to be named later in the Bell deal. But I don't know if they want him. Pitcher with a 5+ ERA, but he's over 500 somehow. He got a lot of run support early in the year when he was in the rotation, but he's now pitching out of the bullpen and not really doing a good job. I think this was a critical game for Stoop, because if he'd have gone out and got bombed again, I think Rose would have had no choice but to just sit him down, not pitching for a while, and maybe contemplate sending him down to the minor leagues. He's not that old. He came out of the Cardinal organization. He was in the minors party last year with Louisville and Vancouver before the Reds got him late in the season, and was assigned out right to the Reds farm system, and he made the ball club this spring, somewhat surprisingly. But he had a good outing today, 3 shutout innings. That might have saved his neck for now. He gave up a leadoff single to I was going to say Mookie Wilson, and then I was going to say Willie Wilson, but it's neither one. It's Glenn Wilson. A single into right field on a 3-2 pitch. Then Diaz popped up to shortstop, or to second. John Russell had a base hit to left field. So first and second, 1 out, and Stoop gets out of it. A first pitch fly ball to shallow center hit by Rick Shue, and then a ground ball to second hit by Jeltz that went 4-3. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left, and through 3 innings, the Phillies had hits in every inning. They did it through 4. They had hits in 6 of the first 7, but then the good relievers, Power and Franco, they shut them out on no hits in the final 2 innings. Good job there. But they had 3 runs on a total of 6 hits and had left 6 on through 4 innings. They had 3 runs, 5 hits, left 5 through 3. In the bottom of the third, the Reds get on the board with a run. A first pitch single to left field by Danny Bellardello. He's getting some hits now. John Stupor then put down a sacrifice bunt. And that went 3-4 on the first pitch to him. He leads the Reds in sacrifices with his 7th of the year right there. Bellardello to second base, and Eddie Milner gets him in.
Then a check of Bellardello delivers, and it's swung on, hit off the end of the bat, base hit left field. They're going to wave Bellardello in. He'll score easily, and it's a 3-1 ball game.
Well, that was a 1-out, run-scoring single by Eddie Milner, his 2nd straight hit. So Stupor's sacrifice is important there. A good job of moving up the runners in the inning. And Milner wraps in Bellardello with a single to left field to make it a 3-1 Phillies lead, Milner's 16th RBI of the year. Venable then hit into his 2nd straight force play of Milner at second base. This one goes 6-4. And Venable on again with the fielder's choice. This time he doesn't steal a base like in the first. He's stranded at first as Rose hit a fly ball to center field and was caught by Hayes, who has played left and center in the series. They had Maddox starting all the first 3 games, but today with the left-hander, Hayes plays center and John Russell's on left. In the third for the Reds, a run, 2 hits, we leave 1. In the top of the 4th inning against Stupor, he gets up a 1-out single to left to the pesky Juan Samuel, who continues to beat up on Reds pitching. That was after Denny hit a fly ball to right. Hayes with a runner on base hit a fly ball to center. Then Schmidt struck out swinging to end an inning for the 2nd straight at bat. No runs, a hit, 1 left. The Reds get 2 to tie the score in the bottom of the 4th inning, and you're going to hear Bob Hope in the upcoming replay. There's no way I can get him out of this, because Bob Hope was up in the booth talking to Marty and Joe. He was talking about his upcoming performance at Riverfront Stadium following the Reds-Pirates game on September the 1st. He's going to entertain the crowd, and a lot of the proceeds going to the Hope House to aid the children in the Cincinnati area, of course, which that's been in effect for years. And Bob Hope occasionally comes to Riverfront to visit with the clan up there in the booth, and they were talking to him, Joe Nuxall was, and right in the middle of this highlight, and I don't think there's any way I could splice him out of there, but anyway, we'll hear a little of the ageless one, and we're going to hear how the Reds get 2 runs in this 4th inning to tie the score. Buddy Bell comes up with a big base hit, and then a double play accounts for another run.
It feels like they know you, I swear to goodness, and it's something I'm sure that has been a great, great thrill to you. Did you ever think it'd turn out this way?
No. When I was a kid in Cleveland, well, what did I know? I told him last night. I did a big show last night for the Renaissance Theater in Mansfield, and I told him that I started in East Palestine, Ohio. In 1924, that was my first show in the East Palestine, Ohio. And here I am just about 40, how many years later? 61 years later, playing Mansfield, Ohio.
All right, here's a long drive off the bat of Buddy Bell to right center. It should score Parker. Buddy on his way to third. He's going to make it there as Parker scores, and it's a 3-2 ball game. So Buddy Bell, his first RBI as a Red, his first extra base hit to deep right center field. Von Hayes came very close to getting to it, but didn't, and it's a 3-2 game. Bell at third base with a tying run and nobody out. So the Reds... Bell at third. Concepcion at first. Then he delivers, and it's swung on, ground ball, trouble. Samuel, Jeltz, Schmidt, but a tie ball game as Buddy Bell scores.
So the Reds tie it up with a 2-run bottom of the 4th inning. You heard some comments there made by Bob Hope, was on hand for the ball game today, and will be there to entertain, as I mentioned, in early September following a Reds game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I guess I could have conceivably spliced out Bob there. He wasn't really talking over Joe when he called the Bell triple, but well, why not put a little extra thing in there for the broadcast? You get to hear Bob Hope for the first time in my Reds collection of tapes. Of course, for many, many years ago, I remember several times he even hosted that local Bob Braun show in Cincinnati, the 50-50 Club, or whatever you want to call it. He was there on hand doing it by himself several times when Bob was on vacation. And, of course, Bob Braun, got him on tape back in 1983. He and Marty Brenneman were the master of ceremonies for Johnny Bench Night, September 17th of 83. So maybe Bob Hope brought Buddy a little bit of luck. Buddy Bill used to play for one of Bob's clubs that he's got some interest in the Cleveland Indians, and came through. Parker, a base hit to center field to stop an 0 for 9, and then Bell, the triple to right center. His first NL extra base hit, his first National League RBI. That would be overall his 33rd run batted in of the season. That would be overall his 4th triple, his first in the NL. He had 3 with the Rangers this season. So nobody out for Concepcion. He walked, and then Oster hit into the 4-6-3 double play, and that scored Bell. And that tied it up. And then Bellardello, a ground ball 6-3. 2 runs, 2 hits, none left. The first of 3 times in the next 4 innings we had those exact totals. Let's now go to the 5th inning, a tie ball game. It's John Stuper pitching a perfect 5th. He retired 1, 2, 3, 5 in a row. The last 5 that he faced, and he got 8 of the last 9 that he faced. Good job by Stuper. Wilson on a check swing grounded to third base, and Bell threw him out. Diaz looked at a called third strike, and then John Russell had a ground ball to shortstop, easy frame for the former Cardinal. In the bottom of the 5th inning, the Reds threaten, but do not score. We had a chance here, but Parker banked into a double play. We had a leadoff pinch hit double by Tom Foley. And that's his 4th double of the year, his first pinch hit in 7 at-bats as a pinch hitter. And the Reds have a nice streak of pinch hitting now. They've gone 9 for the last 20. And that covers all but the first pinch at-bat of this homestand. Because they were 9 for 21 on the homestand, a 429 average, and 450 in the last 20 pinch hit at-bats, raising the pinch hit overall average to 236, which is respectable. 29 hits, 17 RBIs, 3 homers, and this is the 7th pinch hit double for the Reds, as Foley comes up with it. He had been the worst pinch hitter, 0 for 6, but now he's up there tied with Rose at 1 out of 7. But he cannot score. In fact, his own bad base running might have cost us a play here. He got trapped off of first on a first-pitch ground ball hit to first base by Eddie Milner. Backhanded stop by Schmidt. He threw onto third baseman Shue, and they got Foley in the rundown, and they put him out 3-5. And so the following single by Venable no doubt would have scored a run, but instead he was out of scoring position, and Milner's at first on the fielder's choice. And Milner only goes to third base on the following single to right by Venable, which extends a hitting streak for him to 8 consecutive ball games. He's on base all 3 times now. Rose then walked on 4 straight pitches, the 50th time he's drawn a free pass this year to lead the ball club, the 8th time in the last 5 games he's walked. That is career pass number 1,500 for Pete Rose. 1,500 walks, and look at all those hits, too, 4,100 hits. Look at all the times on base. Of course, he scored over 2,000 runs in his career, a National League record also, which he went by Hank Aaron earlier this season with that home run, I think, in fact, at Chicago. So we got the bases loaded for Dave Parker, who has 3 career grand slams to his credit, 1 last year. He had the first pitch on the ground to second, a tailor-made 4-6-3 double play, and that's all. So Dave really was the GOAT here, but he turned into the hero 2 innings later. No runs, 2 hits. Bases loaded, 1 out. Runner at second, nobody out. We didn't get anybody in. 2 runners left on. In the top of the 6th inning, the Phillies take the lead against the new pitcher, lefty Bob Buchanan. First time I've ever scored this individual. Recently recalled from Denver when we made a switch at the major league level. Who am I thinking of here? Jay Tibbs, it must have been. Yes, Tibbs going down and Buchanan coming up. The first pitch Buchanan threw in this game was a home run. Rick Shue hit one out into the second deck in deep, deep left field, way back, for Shue's first of the year, his 3rd major league clout. That gave him a 4-3 lead, and then Jeltz hit a ground ball to shortstop. Denning hit a first-pitch single into right center, but he was doubled up on a Samwell ground ball to third. Bell turned it over to second, and they got the double play as we turn our first of the game. 1 run, 2 hits, none left. In the bottom of the 6th inning, in this seesaw game, the Reds tie and then go ahead on a big home run. With 2 out and nobody on base, we get something started. After Bell struck out swinging, Concepcion had a ground ball to third, and the bottom of the order came through. Oster a single to right field to stretch his hitting streak to 8, and then Dan Bellardello came up with this big blow.
Ronnie with the lead against Schmidt at first. Denny checks him over his left shoulder, pitches. Bellardello swings, fly ball, back into left field, hit well, it's got a chance, it's gone! Danny Bellardello, how about that? His first home run of the season, and boy, it's a big one. as the Reds take a 5-4 lead, and he takes the grand tour. Danny hits home plate. Oster there to congratulate him, and boy, that's a happy young man. His first home run of the year.
Well, that was a potential third game-winning RBI of the year for Bill Ardello. It all have come recently, and two of his first three RBIs were game winners. That's his fifth and his sixth RBIs of the season. A big two-out, two-run homer rocketed over the fence in left field. His first home run of this season, his first since June the 19th of '84, when he belted one at Riverfront against his old organization, the L.A. Dodgers. He's hit several of his now 12 home runs against the Dodgers. 12 Major League homers in the three-year career of Bill Ardello. He had 9 in '83, 2 last year, and now 1 this season. And this is a biggie to put the Reds up 5-4. And it came with, with 2 out, too. I think it was a 1-1 pitch. Big hit for Bill Ardello. That's his first extra base hit of the year, I might add. His first 10 hits, or his first 11 hits were all singles. Now he comes up with a home run. His first in a year, a month, and 2 days. And then they let Buchanan hit for himself. Turned out to be a mistake because he gives up a home run and another run in the next inning. Probably should have pinch hit for him. They would have if Bill Ardello had not hit one out. But Buchanan, in his first major league at-bat, had a ground ball to first base, and Schmidt took it himself. 2 runs, 2 hits, nobody left again. In the top half of the seventh, the Phillies, it's their turn to take the lead as they score 2 to get the lead back at 6-5. And then the very next half inning, the Reds come back again. This is an amazing seesaw battle. And the first 2 batters were retired here, just like in the Reds' 6th. Then the same thing happens, for all intents and purposes, in the 7th. Although there was a walk, then a count stealing. That's amazing. All this run production late in the game is with 2 out and nobody on. A fly ball to left by Von Hayes, a first pitch ground ball to third by Mike Schmidt. Then Wilson hits the first pitch thrown by Buchanan over the fence in left field for a home run. The third in the game for the Phillies. And for Wilson, that's his 9th of the year. That's the third solo shot for him. That's his 64th RBI. Parker later goes ahead, although Wilson's ahead of Parker this time for 4th in the league. But Parker goes ahead by 1 the next half inning. So the second first pitch homer yielded by Buchanan. And then a triple dunked into right field by Diaz. Bo Diaz with a triple. He's taken out for pinch runner Darryl Thomas. Then a pitching change is made. Lefty John Franco comes in, and he serves up a first pitch RBI single to left off the bat of John Russell, as John comes up with his 7th RBI of the year. And that gets Thomas, the pinch runner, in from third, and that gives the Phillies the lead at 6-5. Then Shue hits into a force play of Russell 6-4. 2 runs, 1 run, 2 hits. Make that 2 runs, 3 hits, 1 left. In the bottom of the 7th inning, there was a walk to pinch hitter Gary Reedus. That's the second straight day he's walked as a pinch hitter. That's the 4th time overall this year he's walked as a pinch hitter. He's the best pinch hitter on the team. 4 out of 7, 4 walks, and 2 RBIs. And some stolen bases. Base on balls on a 3-2 pitch, but then he's nailed stealing on a pickoff, 1-3-6. That's only the 7th time he's been caught in 40 attempts. Leads the ball club by 15 and steals with 33. So he's wiped off, and then pinch hitter Cedeno batting for Venable, because we're facing a left-hander now. It is Don Carmen has come on the pitch. Cedeno had a fly ball to right field as a pinch hitter. He's the second most productive pinch hitter, 4 out of 11. With an RBI and a double and a base on balls. Reds pinch hitters, as I mentioned, now hitting .236, 1 for 2 today with a walk. And so we've got 2 out, nothing going on, and Rose starts something. A base hit into center field, his first hit since the 12th of the month. But in between, even with the 0 for 11, he had 6 walks, 2 sacrifice flies. So that 0 for 11 ends with his 61st hit of the year and number 4158 lifetime. And that brings Dave Parker to the plate. He had killed a rally with that first pitch double play grounder with the bases loaded and 1 out in the 5th. This time with 2 out and a runner at first base. He brings everybody around with the game-winning blow.
Rose at first, 2 out. Ron Carmen, the lefty, sets and delivers, and swung on. It's safe fair. Safe fair. That might be way out of here. And it is. Oh, Dave Parker jumps on Don Simon, and he hits one way back in the green seats to make it a 7-6 ball game. He's finally ties into one, and, well, as I said, let her fly, and he did. Boy, he got every bit of that one. That was a fastball, looked like on the inside half the plate, and very tiring drive. Bell swings and misses the first pitch.
Straight as an arrow down the right field line, it stayed fair. A 2-out, 2-run homer, second in as many innings for the Reds. Bill Ardello did that same thing after a 2-out single by Oster. You can't underline that enough. The big hits by Oster and Rose to set up the big home runs. So the 2-run homer by Parker gives him 65 RBIs on the year, his 11th game-winning run batted in, his 17th home run, the most he's had in 5 years, and the most for a Red in a couple of seasons. Of course, he's now one past his last year's total of home runs, which was 16, and we're just now on July the 21st. That's amazing. He's able to surpass that so quickly. His second hit of the ball game and his 105th hit of the year. He's on his way to a possible 200-hit season as well. He now has 183 total bases. He's batting .299 on the year. He is slugging .521, up 8 points from game time. That was a big one. And then Buddy Bell went down swinging for the second time in as many innings. That was on a 3-2 pitch from Carmen. 2 runs, 2 hits. In the 8th inning, well, this is Franco pitching. He walked Virgil in the number 9 position, the catcher. That was after pinch hitter Aguayo struck out swinging, but then he continued to strike out the side. Samuel and Hayes both went down swinging. No runs, no hits, 1 left. In the bottom of the 8th inning, the Reds went out in order against Carmen. Concepcion struck out swinging, as did Bill Ardello to end the inning on a 3-2. Oster in between had a fly ball to left. In the 9th inning, the leadoff batter walked, and that was Mike Schmidt. Franco pitching a little bit too carefully to the powerfully built right-handed batter who could tie it up with 1 swing of the bat. He was 0 for 4 today, though. And then, well, Franco not happy with himself as he slammed the rosin bag to the mound as he saw Pete Rose coming down the line to make the pitching change, and they did. Power entering the game in the number 7 position. Wayne Krenchicki enters to play second base, and what a job Power did again. And combining with Franco, just sensational. On a 3-2 pitch, Wilson hit a ground ball to shortstop near the bag. Concepcion stepped on second, through to first. They got a 6-3 double play to kill off the possible rally in that 9th inning. So nobody on, 2 out for pinch hitter Greg Gross batting for Carmen in the number 5 hole. He went down swinging, a punch out for Power as he ends the game in a flourish. And he faces 2 batters, gets 3 outs. What a job. No runs, no hits, none left. The Reds win it and come from behind style. They trailed 3 different times in the game, 7-6 Cincinnati, as Power chalks up yet another save. Well, a lot of action in this ball game, and a lot of players saw action in this one. 7 pitchers, overall 31 players in the game. We had 1 double, 2 triples, 5 home runs, a stolen base, a sacrifice, 4 double plays, 13 runs, 22 hits, but no errors, so it was clean of field. 2 hours, 24 minutes for the game. My clocking was 2:23. Paid attendance and the total, 30,327 for the baseball music doubleheader with the Reds and the Beach Boys. The series attendance is one of the best in years, 118,327 for these 4 games, an average of nearly 30,000 per game. The Reds now 982,500 for the home paid attendance for 45 dates, averaging 21,832, and that's outstanding. Franco, the winner, 8-1. Power, the save, is 17th. Carmen, 2-3 is the loser. 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors, and 4 left on for Cincinnati. Philadelphia had 6 runs, 11 hits, no errors, and left 8. And some other things for the game. Doubles by Foley, triple Diaz and Bell. Incidentally, they're former teammates with the Indians. Home run, Samuel, number 10. Shue, number 1. Wilson, number 9. Parker, number 17. Bill Ardello, number 1. Game winner, Parker. Stolen base, Venable. Count stealing, Reedus. Sacrifice, Stuper. Double plays, 2 apiece. The Reds have turned 83 now on the season. And some individual statistics for this game, player by player, as I normally do for each broadcast. The Phillies used 14 players in this one, just 2 pitchers. The Reds used 3 more pitchers but won the game, and that's what counts. This was the 90th game of the year for the Phils. They're now some 12 under at 39-51, a .433 percentage, and they're 14.5 back in 5th place in their division. Number 8 is Juan Samuel at second base. He scored 1. He knocked in a run. He was 2 for 4. Number 9, Von Hayes in center, 0 for 4. Number 20, Mike Schmidt at first base, 0 for 4 with a walk. Number 12, Glenn Wilson out in right field, 2 for 5. He scored 1, had an RBI. Number 6, Bo Diaz, the catcher, 1 for 3, scored 1. Number 18 is Darryl Thomas, the pinch runner. He's been around, was with the Angels and the Expos last year, a teammate of Pete's with Montreal last season. Thomas, pinch runner, 1 run scored. Number 42, Don Carmen, pitcher. Number 21, Greg Gross, pinch hitter, 0 for 1. Number 29, John Russell in left field, 2 for 4 with an RBI. Number 15, Rick Shue at third base, 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. Number 30, Steve Jeltz at shortstop, 1 for 3, drove in 1. Number 16, Louis Aguayo, pinch hit shortstop, 0 for 1. Number 40, John Denny, 1 for 3 with an RBI. And number 17, Ozzie Virgil, no at bat with 1 walk. 36 at bats, 6 runs, 11 hits for the Phillies. Pitching line on Denny, he allowed 9 hits and a homer in 6 innings. 5 runs, all of them earned. He walked 2 and struck out a like number. Don Carmen for the loss. As he goes under 500, he allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, both earned, and a walk in 2 innings, a home run. He struck out 3. For the Reds in their 89th game of the year, Eddie Milner, number 20, 2 for 3 with an RBI. Number 2, Gary Reedus, pinch hit center field, 0 for 0 with a walk, a cat stealing. Number 9, Max Venable, left field, 1 for 3. And he has a new number now. He's Buddy Bill was given his 25 that his father wore and that he had with the Rangers. So Max Venable gave up the 25, and he now has number 9. And that was last worn, I think, by Vern Rapp last year. Venable, 1 for 3. Cedeno, pinch hit left field, number 28, 0 for 1. Number 14 is Pete Rose, the first baseman, 1 for 3, scored 1. Number 39, Dave Parker, 2 for 4, scored 2, knocked in 2, another good day. Number 25, Buddy Bell at third base, 1 for 4 with a run and an RBI. Number 13, Dave Concepcion, 0 for 3. Number 16, Ron Oster, 1 for 4, he scored 1. Number 48, Ted Power. Number 11, Dan Bellardello, good day for the catcher, 2 for 4, scored 2, knocked in 2. Dave Parker, though, was the star of the game with Joe Nuxhall, although he and Bellardello had the same numbers. Number 49, Joe Price, pitcher, no at bat. Number 42, John Stuper, pitcher, 1 sacrifice. Number 10, Tom Foley, pinch hitter, 1 double and 1 at bat. Number 51, Bob Buchanan, 0 for 1. Number 31, John Franco, no at bat. Number 15, Wayne Krenchicki, second base, nothing across. 11 out of 31 for the Reds with 7 runs, 6 RBIs. And let's look at these pitching lines. Price, 2 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, all earned. He allowed a home run. He walked 3, struck out 1. John Stuper, 3 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, good outing. Buchanan, 1 2/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 2 homers, nothing else. Franco for the win, 1 1/3, a hit, no runs. He walked 2, and he struck out 3. There was an intentional walk in there also. Price walked 1 intentionally. Power for the save, an inning. Nothing across, he struck out a batter. Franco also pitched a 1 batter in the ninth. Now, the Reds close out this homestand with a pretty good .270 batting average for these last 11 games on the homestand from July 8th to the 21st. They had exactly 100 hits with 5 homers and a .372 slugging average, scoring 42 runs. Team earned run average was not very good at 4.68 with no complete games, 1 shutout and 2 saves. In stolen bases, they went 11 out of 15 and, of course, won 5 of the 11 games. Attendance was 280,976 for these last 11 dates. And now hit the road for 7 consecutive contests. The Reds now 24-23 at Riverfront. Here's some season's pitching lines. Joe Price, 18 appearances, 8 starts, and might have been forced out with that bad arm. He's 2-2 with a 4 1/4 earned run average, 59 1/3 innings, 57 hits, 35 runs. He's allowed 10 homers. John Stuper, 21 appearances, 12 starts with a complete game, no saves. He's 6-5 with a 5.57 ERA. He's allowed 56 runs in 76 innings. Bob Buchanan through his first 3 games, a 6.23 ERA, no record, no saves, 2 homers, 5 hits, 3 runs, and 4 1/3 innings. John Franco, 32 games, a 170 earned run average. He has not allowed a run in his last 10 appearances. And in that period, he's gone 5-0. And he is 8-1 on the year, 8-game winning streak. He's ties Soto in wins. 1.70 with 3 saves for Franco. And Power in his last 15 games is 2-0 with 9 saves and no runs allowed in 19 1/3 innings. Spectacular. 32 appearances. He's got 17 saves, a 1.49 ERA. He's 2-2, a 2-game winning streak. 24 hits and 7 runs is all that he's given up in 42-plus innings this year. For Don Carmen, 45 games, he's 2-3 with 3 saves and a 2.88 earned run average. And for their starter, John Denny, he is 4-10 lifetime against the Reds. Price, 1-2 lifetime against the Phillies. 0-2 last year. This year, 6.23 ERA against them. And for Denny against the Reds, a 7.40 ERA this year against Cincy. 0-3. Lost to us on May 8th, May 13th, and July the 6th. Giving up 21 runs and 30 hits in 24 1/3 innings. He has not beaten the Reds since July of '83 when he beat Berenne 9-3. Denny on the year is 5-7 in 20 games with 3 complete games at a 3.85 earned run average. The Reds team batting average is now at .251. The Reds batted .355 today and slugged at .645. The Reds team earned run average for the year is at 3.92. That takes care of business for this July the 21st. Again, that final, the Reds 7 and the Phillies 6 in 2 hours 24 minutes in front of the good crowd of 30,327 at Riverfront. Until next time, I'll say so long for now.